payment of tithing as fire insurance. Nonetheless, the word of the Lord is clear that those who do not keep the commandments and observe the laws of God shall be burned at the time of his coming.
Travis Wangetzel. As we're getting closer to conference, YouTube is picking up the pace pecani sauce to hang me, to silence my videos and my channel from you. But also, new Mormons are looking around for church stuff and thus finding my videos being recommended when YouTube slips up. And as a result, they come to just the one video that was recommended. They don't bother to check that I have 3.1K videos on this channel. They have no idea of my background history, and if they do listen to the one video where I do mention it, but not explain it as I have in previous videos, they don't believe. They get angry, and they'll lash out with a hate comment. They've forgotten that Nelson ordered them not to do that in April conference this year. Despite Mormons' disobedience because they aren't studying, Mormons are making major errors. They're proving to others that the church is not true when they go around trolling other people and attacking them. And so that's why people who attack me don't affect me, because they're just proving the church is false. They have failed to defend the church when you attack people with fallacy arguments. See, when I go over scriptures with you, I am using an interpretation. The question you have to ask yourself is your interpretation the correct one? When you haven't bothered to study, when you don't know Greek, when you don't know Hebrew, when you don't know Egyptian. You kind of have to if you're going to discuss scripture interpretation. So if you don't know, you should keep your mouth shut, because you're just going to get the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in deeper trouble. Your spiritual witness is no match for reality, because it's right there in the scriptures that spiritual witness without reality is dead. It sounds similar in pattern to a passage in James, but that's faith without works. That has nothing to do with spiritual witness and reality. That involves a higher level of intelligence. Too many Mormons memorize their scriptures, and they lash out quoting scripture rather than understanding that they misquoted the scripture and the beam and mote kicked in and they got exposed. Beam and mote, that's a scripture. And so, Joseph Smith history. Why aren't Mormons studying this? Why don't Mormons understand how to apply it in their daily lives? Wrote prayer number 32. Joseph Smith is talking about the war of Christian religions. Presbyterians, Baptists, and Methodists. And he's saying that they were using all the powers of both reason and sophistry to prove the other's errors, at least to make people think that the others were in error. So they're going on YouTube posting troll comments to rally support of other people who come to view the comments. You didn't know YouTube was used back in Joseph Smith's day, did you? It's what's called an anachronism. And so then he says that the Baptists and the Methodists, in their turn, were equally zealous in endeavoring to establish their own tenets and disprove all others. And so Joseph, being ignorant, had no clue who to believe in. And no spiritual witness, because you can be fooled, all right? No, if it's the Church of Jesus Christ, it's always right. Fallacy argument, automatically wrong. And so he then is reading the book of James. But he didn't get to faith without works yet, so that's why Mormons don't believe in that doctrine. Is that why? Joseph just stopped at the first chapter and 5th verse of James, and his whole religion is based on this one scripture, like Christian branch-offs do. John 3:16. Women should remain silent in church. Yeah, then you get other people who find out that there's other scriptures in the scriptures. Then what does your religion do? Oh, they form their own religion on the one scripture that attracted them. Yeah, you can't do that. You got to take the whole scriptures as a whole. Christianity does not do that. And so he goes on to talk about this division in Christianity. He says that the teachers of religion of the different sects understood the same passages of Scripture so differently as to destroy all confidence in settling the question by an appeal to the Bible. This is Bible bashing, using their interpretation of the Bible passage, which contradicts somebody else's opinion, interpretation of a Bible passage. And we know how this is done. They don't study Greek, so they trust that the English translation of the King James Bible is correct, or nowadays people are translating their own New Testament, and so their translation is the one true translation, because it is an interpretation of maybe the Greek text, maybe, but that would require somebody knowing Greek. But there's also other problems of illiteracy that are involved here. They didn't have Webster's dictionaries back then. And so it was common for people to misdefine words according to how they want it to be interpreted. So manifest is no longer a physical manifestation. It's now a spiritual witness. Hey, that's what Mormons do. Yeah. And there's other tangents that people take to misinterpret Scripture. And I did publish a book on it. It was intended to be submitted to the church so they can have a Scripture study manual. And they did their own instead. But it's not helpful. Because they don't want to deal with translation issues. And so I had a person comment that I saw earlier this morning. So it's the forgotten man. So he's hiding his identity. It's not a business. It's him putting in some kind of alternate persona to hide who he is online. Now, if a person has a channel and they're doing videos, yes, you can have a channel name like Zelf on the Shelf, Exmo Lex, for example. That's understandable. But you get people that don't do videos and they still have a fake channel name, hiding from people, hiding their identity so that other people don't know who they are. And this puts you at a disadvantage when you pull this kind of a stunt, because you're instantly identified as a troll. So anything you say will be used against you, as seen as not credible. And so the first thing he does, well, he structures it in which he has 4 that I see here on this first one, in which he signals out where in the video he's making a comment as he's going along. He's annotating my video. That's sort of good, except for he's looking to find fault with his interpretation rather than taking notes of this video and then going to my video page and seeing that I have 3.1K and then saying, okay, wait a minute, let's check playlists. Okay, he's got a number of playlists. Let's try this playlist and go through that playlist. And he'll find that there's 1,000 in that playlist, but at least he'll have somewhere to start. He's not doing that. He saw this video on Tad Callister and the fallacies he was using to defend the church, and immediately rushed in to prove me wrong. He automatically lost. And like I tell you, when you're ignorant, which means you have a wrong interpretation, it leads to hate. And the hate leads to violence. And he's using verbal abuse as his escalation to violence. And he doesn't say it. And so his first thing that he's complaining about was at 1 minute, 44 seconds in the video where I talk about my brother, extorted by the church. Now, when I say that, with 3.1K videos for the past 7 years, do you think maybe I discussed it at some point in time? Of course I did, and it was fairly recent, this year. And so he's saying, where is my proof that my brother was extorted by the church? He thinks he owns me. My brother paid a lawyer, and it's $2,000 because Kay Birmingham, I went to her saying, hey, can you take my case? $2,000 up front. Oh, never mind. And so my brother got a lawyer and thus would have paid $2,000. And in her email to me, oh, evidence? She told me that my brother had been threatened with his employment. He works for the church. Who's his employer that's threatening him? The church. And so I simply pointed that out. And my brother lost $2,000. He got punished by the church. He may not have lost his job. He may still have his job. But he now is out $2,000 because the church threatened him. This is what the church does to you. They give you an order, and you must do it. You must sacrifice, even if it's your own life. And that's what this forgotten man forgot. Because his interpretation of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and thus on to Joseph Smith's and the Book of Mormon's learning of the Jews' word, is now non-Trinitarian Christian, which is automatically false. And so, yeah, the rest of it is absurd. He then questions the proof that I'm not who I say I am as an anthropologist of the ancient Middle East, the foremost scholar. Because he doesn't want to bother to go to academia.edu. He doesn't want to bother to listen to all the videos I've been giving you trying to teach you about Paleo-Hebrew and Egyptian and the learning of the Egyptians. Even look at pictures. If it's too difficult for him to listen to me, I give you pictures with translation on them. Facsimile number 1, facsimile number 2, facsimile number 3. Not only do I translate them for you, I also point out that Joseph Smith purposely put them in that order for the 3 days of darkness of the latter days. So I have the picture of the 3 days of darkness of the latter days and the facsimiles lined up underneath them. He doesn't want to do the work to find out what I know. That's not his intent. His intent is to attack, to defend the church, exactly like my brother did. But the church did not directly order him to do this. The church indirectly ordered him to do this. Because if you hadn't caught on, sacrifice your lives comes from the temple, the law of sacrifice. And so he has been brainwashed to defend the church at all costs, to use fallacy arguments, to deny, which denialism is the most abominable of communications. He's denying my life and what happened in it. He's calling me out as a liar, that my life is not true. It never happened. He's trying to erase me from history. This is the evil that the church did to him. And all he had to do was read the Joseph Smith history, despite the mistranslations by Willard Richards. Because you also got to check the Joseph Smith papers. But without the Joseph Smith papers, you can still catch on to that one thing. You don't use your interpretation. And you should have caught on by reading the Book of Mormon that you use the science of agronomy. Agronomy, what's that? Vegetation. Seed without fruit is dead. Spiritual witness without the physical results is dead. And Mormons just refuse. And it's sad because the church is going to murder you. And he goes on that. He doesn't catch on. What's fire insurance? The church tells you you must pay or you will die at the second coming. They say that Jesus is going to assassinate you if you don't pay the church. It's like your mom saying, well, when your dad gets home, he's going to be very angry. Maybe that's where Mormon parents got it from. I hope you're not using that on your kids. Putting the fear of a parent on you.